Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again, barefaced lies. Too often, I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. I'll say barefaced lies. Again.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wanna where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you feel me, we never wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shooting cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Hey Sean, you got a party, got that little party going on there. Keep to the left, you can't think right, so everything you do goes wrong, yeah. Incompetence just leads to disaster. Corruption brings it on even faster. What you say?
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Barefaced lies. Barefaced lies.
Comrades, you always told us you'd build us all a new Jerusalem, yeah. You talk the talk, but when you walk, you only leave a crooked line there. And you don't see the trouble that's brewing, if all you do is just what you're doing.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced lies.
Is this where you wanna be? Debts and childhood poverty. Oh, somebody set us free from this corrupt kleptocracy. Oh yeah.
Barefaced lies.
That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road, barefaced. That's right, yeah, we got an agenda. And it's your money we're gonna spend, yeah. Do you wonder where it's all gonna end, yeah? Do you think we ever wanna defend, yeah? Cause when the truth becomes so easy to disguise, you get shit cold, overgrown, postal road,
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011, he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
A very, very good afternoon. Wednesday, the 12th of February 2025. My name is Raja Mir. This is a Recusant 9 transmission. It is the day of an extraordinary council meeting in Oldham. The extraordinary council meeting was called as a direct consequence of Yvette Cooper's refusal to launch a statutory public inquiry, a national inquiry, into the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of children across the United Kingdom, and instead commissioned these 5 toothless cover-up exercises attempting to continue to hide what is without doubt the nation's shame of the systematic grooming and gang rape of at least 100,000 children from towns and cities across the United Kingdom. Of course, this move was triggered by Oldham Council, and what we had done was, for the best part of 6 years, campaigned at a local level after we discovered the cover-up of the abuse of children in our town. After we discovered that, we lobbied our council and we forced vote after vote after vote to write to the government demanding government intervention. Every vote was denied, and every time they denied a vote, we removed the councillors and the council leaders at the ballot box who were complicit in continuing the cover-up. It took us 5 years, and after 5 years we reduced the Labour Party majority, which was 47 of the 60 councillors, to a minority administration of 27, and we put in place a whole host of independents and conservatives to replace these Labour Party councillors. Sadly, the independents we put in, 4 of the independents we put in, betrayed us. Once elected on an independent mandate, where they had openly committed to 2 things. One was not to work with the Labour Party, because the Labour Party in Oldham is corrupt and influenced by Pakistani gangsters. They promised they would not work with them. The first thing they did was go and work with them, and took pieces of silver in exchange. So they secured themselves prominent positions. So people like Brian Hoban from Failsworth, the Failsworth Independent Party, no such thing as the Failsworth Independent Party, they're just Labour Party stooges, and Mark Hinds from the Shaw and Crompton Independents, again no such thing as a Shaw and Crompton Independent, just a Labour Party stooge. He secured himself the prominent position, the powerful position of the head of planning, in exchange for entering into a pact with Arooj Shah and the Labour Party. So Mark Hinds and Brian Hoban were joined by their colleagues Neil Hindle, and also a white woman called Lisa Navesey, who openly, repeatedly said she would campaign for justice. No qualms, no ifs, no buts. Once they got in, they thought they were being clever and passed a motion calling for a public inquiry to the Home Office that restricted the terms of reference to just looking at what happened in terms of to the survivors. They wanted to protect the politicians, the policy officers and the police involved. We let them. We knew what they were up to. We let them because we knew what we would do next, which would, once the Home Office said no, we would lobby, and we did, expose we did, and now not just the nation but the entire world knows about the scandal, and the entire world is watching, and the entire nation is outraged. I think that's very, very clear. What I've been doing after Elon Musk got involved and there was a vote in Parliament, and that vote in Parliament was to reject a national inquiry. no matter how some of the Labour Party politicians want to spin it. It was to reject a national inquiry. What we have been campaigning for is to get councils from across the country to write to the government demanding that their actions are inadequate, and we all demand a national inquiry. Yvette Cooper has identified or agreed to 5 towns or cities, 5 locations having a limited inquiry with no statutory powers, and Oldham being one of them. Now, maybe we should be satisfied with that. We are not satisfied with that because it won't get to the truth. And it's also only got £1 million, and £1 million will go nowhere near it, especially in Telford, where the independent investigation cost between £7 and £8 million, and that was a number of years ago before you take inflation into account. So these investigations, these local inquiries are being set up to fail on purpose, without a doubt. So what we did was we supported people to write to their councils, and across the country councils are passing motions. They're slow in number, but they are passing motions, writing to the government demanding a public inquiry, saying no to Yvette Cooper, and we want a public inquiry instead. The Conservatives in Oldham submitted a motion for an extraordinary council meeting, and this extraordinary council meeting is scheduled for today. I shared with you in the lead up to this how I was fully aware that Liberal Democrats were involved in trying to sabotage the motion. I held back yesterday because I wanted the official paperwork to be released, and the official paperwork has been released. As well as the Liberal Democrats, we also have 2 amendments, additional amendments, one from the Oldham group, which is the Pakistani sectarians, and the third one is from the administration. So when we say the administration, it means the party in control. So the administration is Arooj Shah. But the motion has been put forward by the so-called independent Mark Hints and Brian Hoban. Now I'll explain, I know I appreciate many of you are new. I'll explain the process to all of you as to what's meant to happen. Then I'll go through the motions and what to expect in this evening's council meeting. I will be also back this evening for a live watch along where we can all watch the meeting together. So I know some of you do get to the meetings, and you should go to the meetings if you can get to the meetings. But we now have an audience from across the country, and this issue isn't just to do with Oldham. So my obligation, I think, is to a wider audience rather than my own satisfaction of sitting in a council chamber watching. So I will come back at 5:05, in before the council meeting and get set up so we can live stream, take some questions and answers before the live stream, and I will comment as the meeting is taking place. It's only scheduled for half an hour. There are 2 extraordinary council meetings scheduled. One was brought by the Lib Dems, who've never done it before, and that's because they've been conned out of saving the green belt by the council. They passed a vote, got it voted through, and the council decided that what they voted on wasn't actually what they voted on. Indeed, Bobby. Justice now, I think, is what we need to focus on. So, thank you, Jenny. If you are new to me, my name is Raj Amir. I have been doing this for 6 years now. I come from a background of advising the government, working in protecting communities, safeguarding children and protecting communities from extremism. That's what I've done for the best part of 20 years, probably more. I'm not a politician, I'm not a journalist, and if I describe myself as anything, I'm a campaigner. All of the work I do is 100% reliant upon ordinary people like you who are watching me now. I charge nothing for my work, everything is free. And in return, I ask people to either buy me a coffee or subscribe to my newsletter, Redwall and the Rabble. You can subscribe actually for free. You only pay if you want to do so. And, so I'm just checking. And that's it. I get a lot of criticism. I don't share it with you. Every time I go on a transmission, I get a lot of abuse. I get messages, oh, you're a grifter, you're doing this, you're doing that. All my content is put out for free. And I've been doing this for 6 years, and I've been doing this despite being repeatedly arrested, being dragged through the courts, and being threatened with being sued by the government, by the Labour Party, the party in government. So I risk absolutely everything doing this. So if this is a grift, then show me a different one, because this has aged me, it's nearly killed me, and now still there are open death threats on my life as a consequence of doing this from a bunch of jihadists who are aligned with these politicians. Okay, so please, and there are super chats here for people who, only get a percentage of the super chats, but I appreciate it. So if you want to press a button on your phone, you can do. Let's do it this way, first of all. So what happens is a motion goes in to a council, and ordinarily at a normal council meeting there are a number of motions. So the Labour Party, the party in power, can have 2, and the oppositions can each have 1 motion. And the way the motion is someone stands up and presents the motion. They talk about it. And once they've talked about the motion, other councillors can comment on the motion or share their own perspectives. The person who presents it, someone presents it and then someone seconds it. And then other councillors can speak, and then the person who presented it has what's called the right to reply. And then a vote takes place. That vote is usually a share of hands, unless one of the councillors asks for a recorded vote, and then you need five others to raise their hands. So you need 5 of you, I think, to get a recorded vote put in place. And then the chief executive will name each councillor, and they will say for or against. That is ordinarily how this takes place. And if we were to win, then the motion would be passed, and a letter would be written to the Home Office rejecting the local inquiries and saying we want a statutory national inquiry with the full powers. That's ordinarily what would happen. Please forgive me if I'm teaching you to suck eggs. It's just I don't think all of you know what goes on and how it goes on. Thank you, Nikki. And if my internet goes, stay with me. I'm sorry, I'm just looking at my internet. If my internet goes, stay with me, and I'll just come back on. You won't have to do anything. I'll just have to reset something at my end. Thank you. So, what happens when oppositions want to mess around, opposition parties want to mess around, or the administration wants to mess around, is a motion is submitted, which has been the case, and the opposition, those amend the motion. These are called amendments. So they alter them. And then what happens is that the amendment is voted on. Sorry, you don't need that there yet. What then happens is the amendment is voted on. Is the amendment is passed. If the amendment is agreed, so there's a vote there first of all. If the amendment is agreed, then there's another vote to say the amended motion is then voted on. So what the opposition then have is an opportunity to say, actually, we'd like to amend this. We propose this amendment. We second it. So that takes place. There's a vote on that. And then there's a vote on the amended vote motion, which is the new wording. And usually amendments take place for two reasons. One is to improve the motion or to destroy the motion. One or the other. Mainly it's this. In the main it's to destroy the motion. So the vote becomes about something else. Everyone with me so far? Good. What's taken place this time at this extraordinary council meeting is that the Conservatives have called a meeting. They've used their powers to call an extraordinary council meeting and they've submitted a motion. The council has received not one amendment, but 3 amendments. One is from the Liberal Democrats. The second is from the Oldham group, that's the Pakistani sectarians. And the third motion is from the administration, fronted by the fake independents, Brian Hoban and Mark Ince. So what I'm going to do is quickly go through each of them. We've gone through the motion itself, but I think I'll just quickly go through the motion in terms of what it sets out to do, and I will work my way through the rest. Perfect. I hope you can see that. If you can't see that, let me just see if I can do something with that. Sorry, give me 1 second. Let me see if I can just make that bigger at my end. Not sure I can. That's better, isn't it? Okay. So this is how the paperwork goes out. So you see it. Oldham Council meeting, request for national inquiry. So there's no ambiguity there. Wednesday the 12th, request for national inquiry. You are hereby summoned. So there should be no excuse for any absences. You are hereby summoned to attend a meeting of the council. And it's this. Request for a public inquiry that investigates the scourge of child sex exploitation. And he sets it out. And there's some notes. 1, 2, 3. They note these are the facts on the ground. And this is the actual resolution at the end. This is what they are voting on. To write to the Home Secretary. Let me just highlight it so you can see it. Write to the Home Secretary. Write to the Home Office to demand that His Majesty's Government initiate without any further delay a national public inquiry into the scourge of child sexual exploitation by rape gangs, both historic and current, in Oldham, Greater Manchester and the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. So what they're asking for is a national inquiry across the country. That's the motion. We don't want this thing to be in Oldham. We want a national inquiry. We don't want a local investigation. We want a national inquiry. Hiya Tony, how are you? It's my friend Tony Martin. Spends more time on holidays than any of us. And that's it. That's the motion. Should have been easy, shouldn't it? Vote on it and agree with it or disagree with it. No, these people couldn't. Because no matter what anyone says, this is about politics. And ultimately, it's about hiding what's going on. So I'll fill you in here. I'll fill you in now. My sources in the Labour Party confirmed with me that they were waiting for Jim McMahon, that's the minister, to provide advice and guidance to the council as to what and how they should behave on this. Now, I'm clear as to why this is taking place, and anyone who watched me yesterday will know I'm clear. It's because McMahon is neck deep in the cover-up, and he's desperately trying to protect himself. And he has undue influence over the council. Even the council, Labour councillors, are meant to be independent of the MPs. They're not. Thank you. So here are the list of amendments. You can see. Amendment 1, Al-Hamdani. Amendment 2, Hoban and Hind. Amendment 3, Councillor Wahid, and seconded by Councillor Ghaffar, the Pakistani sectarians. And I'll keep saying that, Pakistani sectarians. And it goes through how it works. Yeah, I've explained that better, I think. So this is the Lib Dem amendment. And you can see, I put a photograph up because I knew it was her involved. Sam Al-Hamdani and Helen Bishop. Helen Bishop, who infamously went on and said, can Oldham handle the truth? Well, it seems Helen Bishop and her team cannot handle the truth. So they've changed. Blue is the wording that they've introduced. Red is what they've deleted. You can see and strike through from the original. So that's what they've done, but don't worry. I'll go through it in detail. Now, there is one problem here in what the council's lawyers have admitted, have accepted. When the Conservatives put this motion in, they quoted direct from Hansard and direct quotes from the Home Secretary and stuff. So what they are doing is amending direct quotes, such as abducted, beaten and threatened with guns. Children have even been doused in petrol. Girls as young as 11 had been raped. These are direct quotes that the Lib Dems want to remove from the history books, because this is a history book. So why would the Liberal Democrats want to remove these words? They want to change national to statutory. I mean, that's just messing around. Instead of initiate, they want the word to be ensure. You can see it here. And they want to delete by rape gangs, both historic and current. Well, what are they if they are not rape gangs? What is the child sexual exploitation taking place? I'm sorry, it isn't photographs of children having baths, is it? Isn't men hanging outside toilets, public toilets, to see if they can see the private bits of little boys having a wee? We are talking specifically about rape gangs. And they want that deleted. White liberals for you. The older I get, the more disgusted I am at them. Again, you can see they want to change the word rape gangs to criminal gangs. What is the criminal action they are committing? They're gang raping children. And they also want to muddy the waters by introducing the term here. They want to widen the remit. And the even more widespread levels of sexual and sexually motivated violence that are endemic in British society across people of all colours and creeds. Listen, there is work taking place on violence, sexual violence against people in different settings. What is unique in this setting, and what has always been unique in this setting, is that these rape gangs have been protected because of their ethnicity and their political allegiances. And these rape gangs' crimes were racially motivated, and I would argue as well, from the testimonies of the rapists themselves, religiously motivated. Who else shouts Allahu Akbar after being convicted of gang raping little white girls? That's exactly what it is, Danny. It's racially aggravated. It's what I've said from the outset. Please, if you're finding value in this, like, at the very least, like. There's 150, 160 of you live here right now, 409 of you watching at various stages of this broadcast. Please, at the very least, like it. There's only 83 of you who've liked it so far. And if I am of value, then subscribe. Subscribe to the newsletter. Paid or free, whatever it is, subscribe to the newsletter. Because without you subscribing to the newsletter and our numbers growing, we are finished. The onus is on you. The council further notes that, so they want to release, we'll talk about semantics. Stupidity. Why didn't you submit your own motion, Helen, if you're going to pick apart the language in someone else's? The employment by Alder Metropolitan Borough Council, the ringleader of the gang, hold on, it is the Rochdale Rape Gang. Why are you getting rid of the word Rochdale Rape Gang? Some more semantics here. They want to remove a fact on the ground, which is this. You've all seen the video footage because I've released it. 1 million of you across the country, across the world have seen the video footage of Pam Burm standing up in a council chamber. At the reconvened council meeting on the 20th of January 2025, that the chairman of the council meeting, that's Eddie Moores, sanctioned a Conservative councillor and asked her to withdraw her remarks for using the term Pakistani heritage rape gangs when asking if the council leader would support a national inquiry. That happened. That is a fact on the ground. Why would you want Helen Bishop, Sam Al-Hamdani, why would you want to do that? Helen Bishop is a councillor in Saddleworth, a very leafy white part of Saddleworth. Sam Al-Hamdani is a councillor in Saddleworth, Western Leeds. Again, well-to-do in the main, but has a strong white working class community. How can you people vote for these people who want to cover up Pakistani heritage rape gangs? They want to erase it from history. They want to whitewash it. She has got kids, Kev. I've met her children. Thank you, Samantha. I'm 100% reliant on ordinary people just signing up and subscribing. I do this work so you can see what's going on. So you can get angrier with a view of then mobilising and helping remove politicians and strengthen the resolve of those who can be convinced to do the right thing. And I'm sorry, Claire, I'm not having that sort of language here. She wants to delete, they want to delete something that horrified the nation, horrified the world. They want that taken out. Abducted, beaten and threatened with guns. Children have even been doused in petrol. Girls as young as 11 had been raped. Not only do they want this taken out, they want a direct quote taken out. This is a direct quote. In Parliament, having this taken out is actually unlawful because you're altering a quote. The Lib Dems are the official opposition in Oldham. They're the official opposition because in Crompton Ward they have 3 councillors. In Shaw they now have 1. And in Saddleworth they've been getting more and more powerful. I think they've got 5. They want to take out the Shadow Home Secretary's quote. Again, this is a quote. It's a matter of public record. He stood up and said it. Why would you want to take this quote out? You tell me why you would want to take this quote out. The whole country is shocked by the rape gang scandal. Over years or decades, thousands or maybe tens of thousands of vulnerable young girls were systematically raped by organised gangs of men, predominantly of Pakistani heritage. Why on earth did they want to do that? Thank you, Ashley. Burying the truth will not change the truth. They also want to take out, again, the direct quote. And I'll highlight it. Sorry, I'm highlighting. So hopefully you can see it better. You might not see it better. I might have picked the wrong colour. I probably have, but... Those raising concerns were frequently accused of racism. Never again can people be silenced in that way. I pay tribute to people who have raised these cases over the years, starting with former Labour MP Ann Cryer, who first raised these problems nearly 2 decades ago and bravely persevered despite accusations of racism and worse, including from her own colleagues. In that vein, let me say a word on the Prime Minister's comments this morning. It is not far right to stand up for victims of mass rape. The Liberal Democrats in Oldham want to hide a comment that says it is not far right to stand up for victims of mass rape. Again, pedantic changes. And this is what they want. So at the end of all of that, they still want to write to the government doing exactly the same thing. They still want to write to the government doing exactly the same thing. They just want to hide the Pakistanis. They also want a specific inquiry into Oldham. You see, I don't. I want the national inquiry with Oldham as one of the case studies. Because we have a duty and a responsibility to our children everywhere. It is completely selfish and unacceptable that we just say we're okay now and screw the rest of you. Screw them in Kirklees, screw them in Bradford. Who cares about white girls in Birmingham? No. We have a duty to everyone, everywhere. Support further national inquiries so they want to widen it. They want to widen it. To muddy the waters. It's wrong, isn't it? It's wrong. Tell me it is anything other than wrong. So that is the Liberal Democrat amendment. You'll get voted on first. I'm alright, Jenny. I'm okay. I was speaking to a friend of mine earlier on the phone. He phoned me. Senior P, we know him as, Mr. P. Senior civil servant. Recently got a promotion. Has gone through hell because they tried to sack him because he spoke out. And we've come out in the wash the other way. History has judged us. And you're all here because you know one was not just telling the truth, I was also doing this for the right reason. Which Alicia Marlin, I lived in the ward Alicia Marlin represents. She came from a community group. She's a councillor now. If I still lived there, I would have voted for her. She's a decent woman. What is she doing? trying to hide. Now, these are racially motivated crimes. Sorry, I need to sneeze. These are racially motivated crimes. I'm going to just go and blow my nose. Excuse me. If you're finding value, and I'll carry on with the other two motions, I want to do it backwards. I'm going to do the Oldham Group next and then the council's, the administration's motion. Give me 1 minute. Let me just go and get some tissues and blow my nose. If you're finding value, now's the time to pause, like, subscribe, maybe buy me a coffee. Or best of all, subscribe to the newsletter Red Wall and the Rabble. I put the link up. I'm looking at the screen and I'm looking at the subscriber numbers. It's not gone up. So maybe now would be a time, if you're considering subscribing or if you're new to me, head over there and do that whilst I just go and blow my nose and come back. My friend Louise sent me a Kit Kat survival bag full of Kit Kats. So, you know, I was passing. It'd be rude, maybe, you know, not to just... It's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Oh, it's nearly 1 o'clock. It'd be, you know. There was no need to mess with the motion from the Lib Dems. None at all. None at all. Shouldn't have done it. Really shouldn't have done it. So this is all of it. Let me bring it up. This is it, redrafted. You don't need to see it, I've gone through it. This is Horbin's motion. I'll get to that later. This is the Pakistani sectarians who are playing an interesting game. Their amendments are in bold. So before we get to their amendments, I'll show you what the Pakistanis have left in. So the Pakistani sectarians have left in this bit. Facts on the ground, look. The bit about how they were doused in petrol, how there were girls as young as 11. They've left in the Pakistani heritage bit. So if the Pakistani sectarians have no issue with the ethnicity being referenced here, why did the white liberals have an issue? Yeah. They've left in the Shadow Home Secretary, Chris Phillips' statement regarding Pakistani heritage. So they're playing a game because they want you to think that they're on your side. Because Cameron Gaffar wants to lead the council. So he needs the white people on board. They're not on your side, by the way, but let them play their games. So their amendments include, they weren't satisfied with 7 facts on the ground. Their other facts on the ground is that the council repeatedly voted against passing this motion. So that's really what that is, number 8. And that there are concerns that without statutory powers, this inquiry will lack the ability to compel key witnesses. Fact, it's fact. I agreed with them. I'm agreeing with what they're saying here. That survivors, campaigners and members of this council have consistently argued that only a statutory inquiry can deliver full transparency and justice. Again, it's a fact on the ground. I mean, these guys are smart. They've not got what they've got without being smart. A statutory inquiry would ensure that all survivors and individuals who have given testimony are legally compelled to provide evidence. And they also say that the credibility of the effectiveness of the local inquiry depends on an independent panel determining the terms of reference. Again, true. You saw yesterday. Yeah. I've done all this, Pip. I'm afraid, by all means, there is something. It's on my webpage, Redwall and the Rebel. Go and sign up there and you'll find it. It's done. We've done this. So, they want the council to write to the Home Office to demand that His Majesty's government initiate without, exactly the same. But they have 3 more demands, but they can't count, can they? Because that's 1. That should be 2. That should be 3. That should be 4. That should be 5. That should be 6. Helps if you can count, lads. 2, they want an independent panel is appointed to set the terms of reference. I agree with them. An independent panel should set the terms of reference, rather than McMahon writing to the Home Secretary telling her what he wants in it and excluded from it. Seek confirmation from the inquiry leadership on the actions that will be taken to ensure all survivors and individuals who have previously given testimony are compelled to provide evidence, whilst also establishing a panel to invite new witnesses and survivors to come forward. Agreed. Engage with survivors, support organisations, legal experts and national agencies to guarantee that all testimony is collected safely, ethically and with appropriate safeguarding in place. Agreed. Call upon the Greater Manchester Combined Authority and the Mayor of Greater Manchester to publicly support granting statutory powers to the local inquiry, reinforcing the need for full transparency and accountability. So what they want is, as well as the national inquiry, they want to carry on with the local inquiry, but give the local inquiry the statutory powers it needs. There's a problem with all of that, lads. This is the problem with you Pakistani sectarians. You don't stop to understand how the rules work. You can't have a local inquiry with statutory powers. You've got to have a public inquiry. It's only a public inquiry that can have that has statutory powers. So if you want a local inquiry as well as a national inquiry, you should say that the local inquiry needs to be a public inquiry. You can't have statutory powers to the local inquiry into child sex exploitation in Oldham. You've got to make it into a public inquiry. I think what they're doing is playing the game. But again, I'm okay. Let them play the game. What I would do, if I was in that council chamber later today, I would vote with the original motion, but before you can vote on the original motion, the amendments come through. The Lib Dem one, I would vote down. I would just outright vote down. Because it removes the racially motivated, racially aggravating factor in these crimes. It's outrageous. You can't have that. But this one, and remember, I despise the Pakistani sectarians. This one I would vote with as an amendment. So okay, it improves it. I don't agree with it per se, but you're still writing to the government, demanding that His Majesty's government initiated without any further delay a national public inquiry. And you're also writing, so you're writing two letters. One is we want a national inquiry, and by the way, the inquiry in Oldham, we want the inquiry in Oldham to have statutory powers. So we want the inquiry in Oldham to be a public inquiry. So we want both. And whilst we're here, we want you to also write to Andy Burnham to make sure he issues a statement that the local inquiry should have statutory powers because his inquiry messed it all up. So you're writing 3 letters. 2 to the government, 1 to the mayor. Fine. Absolutely fine. Honestly, it's fine. I would vote with this. The Lib Dems would have to vote with this. The Conservatives would have to vote with this. So of the amendments that are supported, this is the amendment that I would support. The one put forward, ironically, by the Pakistani sectarians. Will they get the numbers? I think the Lib Dem one will fall. I think if everyone gets behind this, then they'll get 29. Because it falls on the 4 independents, Brian Hoban, Mark Hince, Neil Hindle and Lisa Navesey. No, I don't need to start a petition. There's a plan. Again, there's a plan. We've been at this for a long time, sir. We've been at this a long time. There is a plan. And I've seen petitions come and go on the Parliament site. It builds up people's expectations, hopes, and then nothing happens and then people get disheartened. There is a way of doing this. And the petition is an element of it, but the petition is not for now. The awareness needs to be raised and pressure needs to be levied by the local authorities themselves. The people we elect need to do their jobs first. Yes, Dave, tell them everything's on Redwall and Rabble. Everything I share freely, I put out there, I work day and night, everything is there. So of the 2 amendments that I've gone through from the other opposition parties, the Oldham Group one is the one I would want people to support in that council chamber. It's okay, it improves it. It's fine. Here is what the white councillors elected on a mandate to represent us, challenge the corruption in the council, the Labour Party infested corruption in the council, and fight for our children. Councillors Brian Hoban and Mark Hince. Just as history will remember me, history will also remember both you white men who were elected on a mandate to protect white working class girls. And your sidekicks, Neil Hindle, the businessman, the millionaire businessman Neil Hindle, and the white woman Lisa Navesey. All of you were elected on a mandate to protect and safeguard our children, white children. And all 4 of you, here, let me show you. It's not my opinion. This is, again, what they've done. draft amendment. They want to get rid of the first bit about the full national inquiry. They want to get rid of it. Request a full public national inquiry. They want to get rid of all of that. And they've rewritten a whole host of new things. In July 2024, the council unanimously supported a motion to write to the Home Secretary. And that had previously indicated it was for local authorities to commission such a review. So if the Home Secretary said no, the council would then commission its own review. Well, the council isn't commissioning its own review, you thick twat. Yvette Cooper stood up in Parliament and said that she was commissioning. So straight away, what you're saying is false. The facts on the ground have changed. But what he's saying, what they want to do, is that the council work with survivors to prepare a framework and to commission an independent inquiry. What they mean is they want to set the terms of reference so they can rig it from the start. Brian Hoban, Mark Hinds want to rig it from the start. Facts on the ground: in January 25, the Home Secretary announced that the Home Office would provide support to Oldham Council to work with Tom Crowther KC, the chair of the Telford Inquiry. Now we know from what McMahon said that the chair of the council Telford Inquiry is not going to chair the Oldham review, but he's going to develop a framework for victim-centred local inquiries, and that Baroness case would do some work separately. Again, okay, that's fine. The Home Secretary also announced work to undertake a duty of candour. Hillsborough law, so what? So what? That's a wider sense. If you can't, if this inquiry doesn't have the statutory power to call witnesses, then rather than turn up and be forced to tell the truth under this duty of candour, you just won't turn up because there's not a statutory powers compelling you to turn up. I mean, that's a stupidity. The voices and experiences of victims and survivors is the most important thing here. No, it's not. It is one of the many important things here. It is important that the council recognises that girls and boys of all demographics are victims and survivors of sexual abuse, so they want to hide the Pakistani rape gangs. They want to hide the filthy, dirty bastards who racially targeted these working class white girls. And the men, the people who want to do that, are the two white men, Brian Hoban and Mark Hinds. It's outrageous. These are racially motivated crimes on working class white girls, and the Pakistani motion, the Muslim motion, is better than this. At least the Muslim guys, for whatever the motives might be, want an inquiry, want a legitimate public inquiry. These guys, who are in bed with Labour, want to help cover it up, and that's why it's called the administration motion. So they are part of the council, part of Arooj Shah's administration. Councillor Brian Hoban, Councillor Mark Hinds. I'm sorry, how much? No amount of money. Nothing. Nothing would ever have me do anything like this. Especially when you're elected on a mandate to help deal with this. So they want to delete everything there. And they want to write to the Home Office to ask that His Majesty's government ensure that a review led by survivors feeds into an independent national public inquiry with statutory powers to compel witnesses. So they want to do an inquiry before an inquiry. So they want to kick this into the long grass. So they're saying, oh, whatever this finds out can then feed into a public inquiry afterwards. Who would put survivors through that? You can testify now, but nothing will happen. But then we'll use your testimony to feed into another inquiry afterwards where something might happen. Why not have the national inquiry and be done with it? Write to the Home Office to ask that His Majesty's Government ensure that review led by survivors, as in exclude Raja Miah and exclude all of us, exclude the policemen who are coming forward, exclude the council staff who have come forward, of evidence of a cover-up. No, what they want to do is focus on the survivors. Oh, wasn't it awful what happened to you? Oh, wasn't it awful what happened to you? Hiding behind the survivors. Continuing to cover up what's took place. Remove the racially aggravating factor. And of course, they've just got 3 survivors. And I reaffirm now, I don't care who messages me, angry. Not one of those 3 are survivors of the Pakistani rape gangs. Not one of them. Write to the Home Office to ask that His Majesty's Government ensure that review led by survivors N.T.M. Crowther feeds into an independent national public inquiry with statutory powers to compel witnesses in the scourge of child sexual exploitation, not rape gangs, both historic and current in Oldham, Greater Manchester and the United Kingdom. So they want to write saying, after we've done this, could you make sure that then something else happens? I don't think you'll get good odds on that, Randy. So there is no ambiguity. Brian Hoban and Mark Hince's motion amendment is nothing more than an attempt to cover up for the Pakistani rape gangs. And when they vote on this, and Hindle and Navesey vote with them, we in Oldham will mobilise a campaign come the election, making sure that the entire borough knows, in fact the entire world knows, that these 4 white individuals, independent councillors elected on a mandate to protect and safeguard our children, are now in bed with the Labour Party in attempting to cover up for the grooming and gang rape of our nation's children. Why would you continue a review when you acknowledge it does not have the statutory powers to say, well, then later on it can feed into another inquiry that does have the statutory powers? I'll take some questions, please. I'm just going to have a little drink. I'll take some questions before I stop. So please type your questions if you want. You can buy me a coffee. You can do a super chat. You can buy me a coffee, or you can subscribe to Redwall and the Rabble. Please, since I've been on, despite 703 of you being here with me, despite 703 of you being here with me, I'll just bring it up. Two people have subscribed. So I meant to put this up. Yes, the vote will be recorded vote because someone will ask for each of the amendments to be recorded. So don't worry about that. I haven't got the means for that, Ryan. I'm live hand to mouth. Every time I've gone and spoken to people, then they talk about a bill. Tens of thousands, 50,000, 100,000. Who's going to pay for that? I've just shared this for, what, an hour and a bit? I've spent all morning prepping it, and I've got 2 people signed up to a newsletter. Come on. And so you should be fuming. So you should be human. It's okay, Jenny. You know, you don't bank online. It's fine. I have a lot of elderly supporters and people who don't, and it's fine. You're helping by being here and commenting. So for that, I'm grateful. Subscribe, share the content. Mate, I've been 6 years. Why should I do a GoFundMe page for a lawyer? Why? We elect politicians to represent us. They should be representing us. It's just not how many, it's why. I think it's very clear now that this government is protecting these rape gangs. I don't believe they're protecting the rape gangs because they're paedophiles themselves or anything like that. I think they're protecting these rape gangs because they know the pact they made with those people who are involved in the rape gangs, and senior politicians, his roles will be exposed, and they're doing everything possible to cover that up. This isn't unique, is it? Time after time after time, when we forced public inquiries elsewhere, the resistance was because powerful people were involved in the cover-up. I don't do things like that, mate. I don't know you. I don't, it doesn't work like that. Getting to me doesn't work like that. You can drop me an email, and if I can help, I will. If I can't, I won't, but I don't just randomly meet people like that, I'm afraid. I will happily light a candle for you, Rian, but I also have experience on what's taking place here. And I would be surprised if the motion goes through. They will block it. And they will use 4 white politicians to block it. And the reason you found my YouTube channel, I think, was because I encourage and I plead with people. Like, share, tell people. So thank you. Thank you. Don't worry if we lose the vote. Because we've got a plan and a plan and a plan. But what we wanted to do was force this. Because I want no ambiguity as to who our enemies are. And after today, you will know who the enemies are in Oldham. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. The plan is for me to come back about 5:30 and do the live watch along with you. The meeting starts at 6. I think it'll be over by 6:45. James, good afternoon to you too. Well, this is the thing, Richard. I think all three amendments have got to be voted on. Because they've got all three in. All three motions have got to be voted on. It's going to be interesting. Really what should happen is the Lib Dem motion should be first, the Oldham groups would be second, and then the, what's it called? The Labour motion should be third, and the one that gets voted on and approved then undermines the other two. Oh, you won't hear anything. You won't hear anything, Kev. Because the lawyers who wrote to you, to talk to you, independent lawyers, are the lawyers the council used to try and sue me. So that shows you how independent they were, or are. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sharon. So, let's see what this meeting brings later this afternoon. And let's see where we end up. And on that note, I don't think I'm watching the derby tonight because I'll be... thank you, Tracy. Because I'm doing this. But they will. This is the thing. They will have to. Because I've told you, if you listened to me, 2029 is a general election. We'll make sure it's in the manifestos of the parties that we will then vote for. And I know it'll be in Reform's manifesto. Not even in the Conservatives manifesto, but I know it'll be in Reform's manifesto. And I will be staggered if Labour manage to keep hold of power after 2029. Again, some of you want quick wins. We've been at this for 6 years and people have been at this before me. People have died. Friends of mine have died who started this campaign. We'll see it through to the end. And we will see politicians and police officers put in prison. Alongside the Pakistanis that raped these children. Thank you, Ray. I'll light a candle. It's no problem. I'll light a candle. Indeed. And we talked about, and we've always used the word here in Oldham, tyranny. That's what this is, tyranny. But this tyranny is only possible. This tyranny is only possible, sadly, because the people we voted in, who promised us they would stand by us in our quest for justice for our children, are the very people who are now betraying our children. A very, very good afternoon to you. I'll be back in a couple of hours. Take care.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.